Masculinity is a prison from which you will never escape, even though the key is and always has been in your hands. All right? You don't hate me because I'm different. You hate me because I stepped outside and I left you in your cage.
I'll be tagging that creator below. Go show that video some love because, yeah, they read them to filth. And to be quite honest, that is my exact attitude as of late, because I used to be an advocate for, like, I know it's going to sound so bad, but hear me out. I used to be an advocate for, like, the man's ability to self-express himself, because I figured out one day, as someone who was raised under hyper-masculine guys, I figured out that men are miserable in the way that they are because society structures them to be this way. When all the hate for the male frolicking challenge, for the black man smile challenge, for the sassy zesty movement, yeah, I was right there being like, yo, what the fuck? Y'all want men to be sociopaths forever? No, we need them to show human emotion. We need this. Like, who? But as the years went by, I grew admittedly apathetic towards men, and I know that sounds weird because I grew up in the same situation as most of them, and I should be more empathetic, right? But it's like, they make it so hard. I made a video a long time ago that took the point that nobody hates men more than a bisexual woman and raised you that nobody hates men more than a man that has healed and knows what a man is capable of. I said that nobody hates, fears, and pities a man more than a man who has healed from traditional masculinity. And so far, that opinion has not changed. Because the thing about men, it's like the creator said, the key to dropping the guys, the mask, is in their hands, but they do not want to let it go. And I can only blame them so much because it's indoctrination. They don't know any better, especially when they weren't raised with emotional literacy. And I know it's going to sound weird, but I got lucky because I never really liked my family to begin with, so it was easy to cut them off. But a lot of people are in situations where they're still in contact with their family, so they can't express themselves because they don't want to see what's going to happen if their family sees what they're like when they're happy. Because these families out here, they're toxic as fuck, especially when they have boys. Because I know there's this whole thing that women get raised and men get loved. I don't call it loved. I call it enabled, I call it cut loose, but I don't call it loved. Because as someone who was chastised for smiling in family photos or talking to the women when the men were outside at family cookouts, those people want to see their kids being successful, popular, but nobody wants to see them happy. It's also why I hate this divine feminine, divine masculine bullshit, because a lot of things that are considered feminine or queer are actually natural human behaviors that men are not allowed to have access to. And it forms this sort of apathy towards other people that, once again, makes it very hard to work with them. So it's like, on one hand, I'm sorry because the people closer to you in your life are making you put on this performance every single day without considering what you actually feel. And every time you are to slip up, every time you are to fall, it's just an expectation for you to pick yourself up the next day. Which is unfair because it's just ignoring the root of the pain. Men deserve love too, but it's just like they develop into these apathetic creatures that can't show any understanding to anyone else around them, to women, to queer people, to trans people, nobody. And it's like, as someone who presents as a man, I will say that they do not talk about anyone else. Like, people who lack personality, they do not talk about anyone else except the people they deem inferior. How every issue we have right now is based in palm-colored supremacy and capitalism and patriarchy. This too. It is rare to meet a man who does not make one of those things their central personality type. I will be perfectly honest. Like, they'll claim not to give a fuck, but they'll mention it every third sentence. And I've also come to a very apathetic part of my life to where it's like, look, I had to dig my way out, so I kind of expect you to do the same. Like, you're grown now. I know that sounds unfair, and I know people grow at their own pace, but it's just like, where's the line? Like, when does someone's, oh, they just had a rough childhood, evolve into, oh, they're just a product of their time? Like, I feel like we enable these people for their whole fucking lives. And here's the thing, it's not even just men for me. Like, I don't like anyone who subscribes to the patriarchy because they end up being the worst type of person. We can call them what you want, you can call them traditional, you can call them old-fashioned, but half the time they end up being a douche. I have not met anyone who is quote-unquote traditional in character and was not a douche. Like, y'all know me, when I hear conservative, that's just telling me that you like either book, emotions, or people smarts. Like, ladies, to be perfectly real, when y'all subscribe to the patriarchy, you want to pick and choose which parts work for you. When y'all start saying sassy, zesty with your queerphobic rhetoric and you swear that it's not, it's like the individual who's saying it makes me feel less empathy. Because I know that type of individual is going to be the one who turns around and make this whole statement about how they hate men. Which is an understandable statement, but it's like, it's never for the right reasons. It's like, there are actual reasons to hate men out here. Like, I can tell you, I can attest to that. But it's like, the reasons they hate men are for their own preferences. They hate men because of their subscription to patriarchal masculinity. They're like, men are so this, men are so that. I'm like, no, they're really not like that. Because as someone who's been through that type of shit, I will tell you that those are the same type of people who have children, who have sons, and raise them to be that type of person. Because when you subscribe to this rhetoric that men are for Mars and women are for Venus, you are going to raise your children under that guise. You are going to make them exactly what society wants them to be. Submissive servants and mindless, obedient soldiers who only subscribe to authority. Just like that creator said, they are going to go their whole life unable to go a day without fearing what their father thinks about them. And the same thing can be said for patriarchal women, like usually it's a problem with their moms. The emotional obsessed is real. And it's just a big continuing pattern. It's also why I became agender, because the first time I took Mario power-ups, I figured out that the main issue in my life were cisgender norms that were making me miserable. And I also figured out that if we got rid of those, that it would actually be the first step to world peace. Like if we actually let the future patriarchs be people instead of, mindless drones, then we would have a little bit more wiggle room for open communication to develop. And this isn't a if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours sort of deal. This is a literally the patriarchs are designed to be little shits. And the patriarchy will not cease to end until the patriarchs are not raised to be little shits.